"48 hours to APC presidential primary election." You're welcome to From the Dailies on Equa Television, and I say Happy Children's Day to all the children out there. I am Owolabi Tosin, and I'll be doing this with Sele Elisha. Good morning, Sele.
Morning, Tosin.
And I would like to ask you a question. What is that remarkable thing you remember 27th of May for during your childhood days?
I think the March Pass. It's something that is like, I love it a lot. Like, I look forward to it like every 27th of May. And also in church, normally it's an opportunity to stand in front of your parents and, you know, show all the talent you have. So it's really something that each time, like, I miss doing all that, you know, while I was a child. So it's something that is sweet and great.
Yes, let's start with our papers and let's start with Nigerian News Direct.
And the first story on Nigerian News Direct, UBA set to reward loyal customers in super savings draw. Internet fraudster jailed in Kaduna to refund 36.6 million naira to American victim. Detail of that can be found on page 3. And Dangote still Africa's most admired brand for 5 consecutive years. And the big story on 2023 elections, Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Omo Agege and others clinched the APC's Guba tickets. And we can see the picture story to follow that up. Abdulrazak taunts gain of Atuge as Kwara APC affirms governor for the second term. And in detail of that can be found on page 3. And we also have at the back pages a column for Femi Adesina, and you can look that up inside the Nigerian News Direct. And that's all on the Nigerian News Direct.
On the Daily Trust newspaper, ongoing party primaries, a mess. This is coming from the former president Goodluck Jonathan. And former President Goodluck Jonathan has described the ongoing primary election across the country a mess. It reports that aspirants and delegates in some parts of the country have monetized the process. Some aspirants who lost the election has demanded a refund from delegates who were given millions of naira in a bid to secure a ticket for the 2023 election. Speaking on Thursday in Abuja during a book launch titled Political Party Governance as authored by Dr. Mohammed Wakil, a former Minister of State, Jonathan said the process has failed. According to the former president, it will not be good to elect a president and governor using the same process. Jonathan said this whole primary going on across the country is a mess and this is not a standard practice. The process has failed. We cannot use this process to elect president, governors, senators, and House of Representative members and others. And Sele, you know that now we have this that is going on our social media now on delegates cashing out, and we can see the issue of selfishness and corruption by some delegates, and we just have a few delegates that stand to their words and not collect bribe for this primary election that we're preparing for during the weekend. And now we can see that the former president is saying this primary is the ongoing party primary is a mess. And I just see that these delegates, I just hope that they know the key position they are holding, because the positions they are holding is key and they have the right to decide who will come out to be flag bearer for whatever party that they are going to represent. But we see the issue of corruption taking place where delegates are just cashing out, collecting money from those people, and we've seen situations where some people who failed the primaries, that's for the governorship or either the reps, they are regretting because they've given out a lot of money to these delegates, and they are regretting. I saw someone was saying that an aspirant even slumped after he discovered that he failed. He had just 2 votes. He slumped because he gave out a huge amount of money to all these delegates, and even our papers we saw where these delegates have been locked down even in hotel without having access to their phones, and they are just being pumped with money and food, and you can see this is an act of corruption. I keep on saying this issue of positions and this issue of all this coming out for president, governors, or whatever position, it's not a do or die affair. If you have the interest of if you have the interest of the masses at heart, then it will not be a do or die affair. We saw where Peter Obi said he won't be worried even if he failed, because all he knows is that he has the interest of this country and how to grow this country to a better nation. But we see that there are some people who take this position like, if I don't win, nobody can win, I must just win, and I'll give out all it takes to win. That's why you see corruption taking place, all these delegates. And I just hope that all these delegates, the few amongst them that is not collecting this corruption and is not even keen with this issue of they will stand true to their words. And those who are involved in this dirty act, because it is a dirty act, I just hope that they will turn from their ways and really look out for how we can grow, because all these people that are into this act, they're not concerned about the growth of our nation. They're just concerned about their pockets, and that is what is being displayed. I saw a picture where the more you could see money in envelope that assigned to different delegates in different constituency, and this is what is taking place. This is now the trend now because of this primaries that is coming up this weekend. And I just hope that these people will do the right thing, because if we keep on saying our country is not moving to the next place, you can see that from the little position you have started doing this act of corruption. You are involved in this act of corruption. What if you are given bigger positions, Sele? You can see that something bad will happen. So we just hope that this delegate will stand true to their word and do the right thing in that position.
Presently, it seems like our life is in the hands of this delegate, because if they should elect or select possibly an incompetent leader, we're stuck with that leader for the rest of our life, because presently the masses cannot do anything concerning who the flag bearer is. All we are left with is finally whoever is a flag bearer, we have to go pin our votes. And so I think this is where we need to call on the delegates, just like you said, to be honest, because we need leaders that are competent, we need leaders that are credible, we need leaders that we can hold accountable at the end of the day, not just anyhow. And so I think we want to, appeal to the conscience of these delegates to please elect the right and competent leader as the flag bearer. It's not about the money, just like you were saying. I saw another video of one of, I think, from, I can't remember the local government, and when he actually failed, he asked the delegates to return back his money. Yes. And he said, finally, it's just remaining 2 words that are yet to return his money. And the delegates are saying he should never come to them ever again soliciting for their votes. But what are we trying to say? It's not all about the money, but it's all about the right person that is capable of handling whatever position you think he or she should handle.
Yes, thank you very much, Sele. Still on Daily Trust, we have on insecurity. Abuja Kaduna flight tickets sell for over 100,000 naira. The big story on APC presidential ticket, Buhari meets governors, mom on preferred candidate. The rider says leaves aspirant and others guessing, off to Mulabu for AU summit. No date for screening, 48 hours to primaries. PDP picks candidate tomorrow. And I'll talk about the president who is off to Mulabu for an AU summit. Sele, when we have this issue of the terrorist group giving ultimatum, now we have just 5 days to the ultimatum these terrorists have given concerning killing these people. That's the abductees on the Abuja Kaduna train attack. And now the president is not even saying anything about it. And now he's off to Mulabo for an AU summit. We're just hoping, just as we keep on saying, we are hopeful that they will be released before this ultimatum elapses, because we don't want to have records of these people losing their life or dying as a result of the government being nonchalant to meeting up to the demand, because it's obvious the terrorists and the government have something in common. They have something that there's an agreement they want to meet up with, because the terrorist groups keep on saying that they need the government to look into their plea, because they say they don't even need ransom from people, family members. They want the government to heed up to their needs. So we don't want lives of people wasting away as a result of the government and the terrorist group having a clash between themselves. Something needs to be done. With the president's absence in Mulabo, we just hope that the chief security officers and even those, the chief of staff and other sectors, they should do something about it and look out for ways these people can be released and reunited to their loved ones. Omoagege Cole Nanji Idris pick APC governorship ticket. The rider Zulum Buni Sule Matawale Inua at Biodun gets return ticket. Children seek role in decision making as Buhari raises hope of future generations. And downside on presidential race, Oshibanjo campaign trips funding raises dust. An unofficial use of Presidential Jet Act of corruption. Vice President hasn't breached law. This is coming from lawyers, and that's all on the Daily Trust newspaper.
Let's take a look at Nigerian Tribune. Court stops INEC from recognizing Obaseki and ACOC delegates for the 2023 election, detailed on page 28. Election-sensitive materials no longer safe in Cbn, Falana tells INEC. Abba Kyari praised court for bail, alleges threat to life in Guji prison with the rider. He is safe in custody, no threat to his life. This is coming from the CSO. Detail of that can be found on page 29. And the big story, decisive weekend. APC PDP pick presidential candidates with the rider about 3,000 delegates to vote for Uzibanjo, Tinubu, Lawan, Amici, Atiku, Saraki, Wike, and others. Abuja hotels fully booked. Buhari jets out to Equatorial Guinea for 3 days. Detail of the story can be found on page 2 and 8. Sawolu, Abiodun, Amenike, Zulum, Amo Agege, Toye, Kole, Boni, and others to win APC Guba tickets. With the rider Sawolu opponent slam exercise DS party on screening or your primary to hold today. Detail of the stories can be found on page 26 and also on page 5. Federal government, states, local government shares 656.602 billion naira for May. Detail of that can be found on page 6. Gunmen kidnap Lebanese, kill soldier, driver in Ondo. Detail of that also can be found on page 29. And on Harira, silence is not golden. JNI tells the Southeast governors. And you can look that up on page 8. 3 Niger PDP delegates shot dead by bandits, and this is the time of politics. We see lots of things, so we just hope that the delegates will also be careful and trade with caution in all that they do. You can read more of that on page 27. And on Electoral Act, Supreme Court reserves judgment in Buhari Malami's case, with the National Assembly, Rivers State, NBA wants to dismiss. And we can see some picture stories here. You can do well to get the Nigerian Tribune and read any of the story that is of interest to you.
Thank you, Sele. On Voice of Liberty on 2023, APC drops consensus plan for presidential primary, says option not visible. Still on 2023, presidential flag, NNPP aspirant Olufemi Ajadi steps down for Rabiu Kwankwaso. Governor Zulum is saying, I've gotten offers for vice president slot, but I'll prefer to continue as governor. And on Electoral Act, Supreme Court reserves judgment on Buhari's suit. The Supreme Court has reserved judgment on the suit filed by President Muhammadu Buhari and the Attorney General of the Federation, seeking to void Section 84, subsection 12 of the Electoral Act 2022. President Buhari departs to Mulabo for AU Summit in Mulabo. And Kaduna 2023, Isa Ashiru wins PDP governorship primaries. And United Kingdom records 529% surge in sponsored study visas granted to Nigerians, from 9,355 to 58,887. Abba Kyari is safe, not under any threat. And this is coming from NCOS. And concerning the Kaduna train terror attack victims countdown, 60 days in captivity. That is 2 months in an unknown environment, and in an environment that is not even safe for these people. Something needs to be done about their quick release, about all those people who have been abducted. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
And on Friday, a Jazeera newspaper, police arrest couple and 3 others over fake NICO employment. The Niger State Police Command has arrested a couple and 3 accomplices for allegedly defending over 50 people of about 10 million naira while planning their fake employment at the National Examination Council headquarters in Minna. You can read detail of that in page 13, and it's really a sad one because as a result of unemployment, we can see what people has resolved into giving bribes so that they'll get employment. But we hope and we really want to applaud the police for the right step, and that also they'll check other people. It's not just about screening our leaders. This is how it starts when you begin to fake your result or fake your documents from now and then. When we get to that top place, we cannot do that. So I'm happy that the police were able to, arrest this couple and other accomplices. So we need to be careful with people that we give. In fact, you're not even supposed to pay money for whatsoever reason. So we need to be careful. Whatever employment is given to you, check it and be sure that it's really, really official and it's a genuine employment.
Yes, and this also work hand in hand with the illegal admission letters that people are getting. And after study, when it's time for you to go serve your mother's land, then you see that all these things is coming up. That's coming from NYSC and even the JAMB office. So something needs to be done about it. When we apprehend people with giving fake NECO results, also fake admission has a way of affecting also at the end of it when it's time for you to serve. So we need to look into all these things. We need to kick away all these issues of illegality coming from our nation. Yes, we know that there is no job in the land, but must we go through the illegal ways? And you see that all these illegal ways have a way of coming back to you and even affecting people the more. So we need to look out to all these things, and just as you said, we've applauded the efforts of the police in apprehending these people, but we should still intensify more efforts to get all those people that are into all these illegal acts, so that something and the justice should pass on them the right way.
Of course, and the big story on Al Jazeera, 2023 Guba, Zulu, Makandi and others win tickets with the rider. I'm not the most brilliant or the most upright person, yet you gave me the mandate. This is coming from Oyo Governor. Detail of that can be found on page 8. INEC raises alarm over increasing money politics, and this is really a sad one. I remember yesterday we spoke about money politics, where we had an aspirant saying that let nobody give you money to sell your vote, and we'll still lay emphasis on that. Our vote is our right. You are not permitted to sell your right to anybody else, and that's why even as we're appealing to the conscience of the delegate, we also need to appeal on the conscience of citizens of Nigeria that for whatsoever reason you shouldn't sell your vote to somebody that is not credible, because we are after credible leaders, accountable leaders. And so just as INEC is raising an alarm concerning that, we also need to raise an alarm, not just leaving INEC. I think our religious leader needs to come in place. I think this is where organization, parastatals come together, put your hands together, and let us kick against money politics in the nation.
If we can preach this even in churches, even wherever, we should preach all these things, because people now, people are so ignorant about this fact that during the election, you see that they just give you little things and you are carried away and you just give them your voter's card to do whatever they want to do, not knowing that you have 4 years or 8 years to stand whatever the problem you are going through in that current position. So we need to preach this even in churches, on people to not kick against money politics, because they will definitely come to you. It's just obvious, but you need to stand to your word and look out for the right person and vote in the right person, and also ensure that your vote counts.
Exactly. Other story still on Friday, Al Jazeera. Federal government to Benue government, no promise of the 10 billion naira resettlement funds for IDPs. Buhari wife depart for AU meeting in Equatorial Guinea. Detailed on page 11. Banks borrowed 338.5 billion naira in January. And food prices increased by 42% in 12 months. This is coming from NBS. And the last story, Abba Kyari on saving prison, says lawyer, detailed on page 9. We have few picture stories here. You can do well to get the Friday agenda and read details of any of the stories.
And on Leadership newspaper, we have a manifesto saying Yaya Bello leads aspirants in Channels TV rating. And 811 PDP delegates in moments of decision. How 14 aspirants stand. And we have the aspirant here, and we have them and also their strength. For Abubakar Bukola Saraki, that's a former Senate president and Kwara State governor, his strength is he is a force to reckon with in North Central. While for Aminu Tambuwal, Sokoto State governor, his strength is that he's a formidable force in the PDP. For Ayim Pius, the ex-SGF and Senate president, with Obi's resignation, he's the most outstanding Southeast aspirant. And Atiku Abubakar, the former vice president, his strength is that he has been around for decades and has paid his dues in politics. Nyesom Wike, the River State governor, perhaps it's time for him to reap his investment in the PDP. And for Chikundu Kalu, the former Speaker Abia Assembly, his strength is he will definitely have rough race for the PDP ticket. And for the woman standing, Tari Oba Oliva, the security expert, her strength is as the only female aspirant, she is not intimidated by the men. We have Udom Emmanuel, the Akwa Ibom State governor. His strength is he appears prepared and ready for leadership and has the capacity. We have other aspirants here. We have Ayo Fayoshe, we have Bala Abubakar Mohammed, we have Charles Ugu, we have Mohammed Hayatuddin, Nyesom Wike, Dele Momodu, and Sam Obinwa. We have others who do well to visit the Leadership newspaper to look out for all these aspirants and look out for their strength in positions they are keen and vying for. Downside APC primaries, Buni, Sanwo-Olu, Matawale, Zulum, Abdulrazak, Inua returns unopposed. Details can be found in page 7 and bank on President Yemi Oshibanjo. And that's all on the Friday Leadership newspaper.
And a New Telegraph, sustained controversy plunges VAT revenue by 40.67 billion naira as the federal government states council share 656.60 billion naira. CBN injects 24% intervention loan into energy sector. Detail can be found on page 25. And on Children's Day, Buhari pledges to prioritize the child education. Wajabian Mila Kadu salute the Nigerian children. And I think the right step to start by prioritizing a child is by making sure that they get back to their classrooms to study. To make sure that all other areas have been affected by insurgents and insecurity. The educational sector needs to be made fit, because if we do not train this generation, that means we are planning to hand over this generation to bandits. We are planning to hand over this generation to people who have nothing to offer. So I think the first step the presidency, the government can make the child a top priority is to make sure that the classrooms are very, very suitable for them. We've heard stories where you see kids sitting on the floor and all that. That is the first step, I believe. It's not about the feeding scheme that is being given to school, but after eating, what else do they have to offer? Do they eat and forget about their education, or do they eat and forget about what the future holds for them? So I think this should be the first step that the presidency should put in place to make sure that the child is of a top priority in the nation.
Yes, and the president, even while addressing the children on this day, which is a Children's Day, he pledged to work with the educational sector in securing the bright future and foundation for these children. And also he said talk about the development of the educational sector, because we can't talk about the children, talk about the bright future and talk about them being leaders of tomorrow without talking about the educational sector. And just as you've said, the educational sector is really suffering, and Mr. President have recognized this fact and promised the children that he's going to work in looking out for ways he can develop the educational sector for these children, for it to be be conducive and learning comfortable for these people. And we look out for all this sincerely. We've had series of promises coming from Mr. President. In whatever day we are marking, we had where workers day. He promised to workers advancing and even increasing their salaries and up to date. That's for teachers. And now we still see issue coming from Mr. President, promises coming from Mr. President concerning the children in ways of developing their educational sector. We say talk is cheap, but we look out for action. We look out for ways Mr. President will implement all this action and have a time where children will understand that education is key and even priority, and children will have this zeal and love to go to school because they won't have any issues drawing them back. And this has to link with the ongoing ASU strike. We just look out for time where the strike will be called off so that students can go back to school, because you can't talk about the primary school, talk about the nursery school, primary school, and even the secondary school without talking about the university level. It's still part of developing the children for the brighter future. So we look out for ways Mr. President and even people handling those key positions will put in more effort in intensifying and making the educational sector a place and a place we've dreamed of and a place we long to reach someday, sometime. So something Mr. President should do something about these things. These promises he has tabled, these promises he has made to these children, he should implement it soon.
Of course, and on ASU, no government released money to improve public varsities without our struggle. You can read detail of that on page 8. A manifesto review, Bedlu leads top 10 presidential aspirant in Channel's TV rating. On Electoral Act, Supreme Court reserved judgment on Buhari's suit against the National Assembly, with the National Assembly reverse NBA 6 suit dismissal. And on 2023 ongoing party primaries, a mess, says Jonathan. And we have APC tension in Edo over non-arrival of sensitive materials, process aborted in Oyo, bandit kill 4 Niger PDP delegates. You can read detail of that story on page 5, 6, and also 7. Still on 2023, Igbo's elders hail Obi's exit from PDP, accuses PDP and APC of plotting to scheme out the Southeast as the Middle Belt Forum turns down North Central candidacy. Obi's resignation unsettles Southeast PDP, made to express fear. Kwankwaso meets with ex-Anambra governor. Detail of that can be found on page 3 and also on page 6. Still on presidential aspirant, I'm sole runner, Tinubu tells delegates. I'm unflinching support from the Southeast. This is coming from Lawan. My motivation is service. This is coming from Fayemi. We have also a study that said weight loss can help fat men double their sperm counts, and you can get more about that on page 6. And that's all on the New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, 48 hours to APC presidential primaries. Another shift likely over absence of screening. Convention committee. Stakeholders decry lull in convention activities and delay strategic, says official of Bello campaign group. Buhari departs for AU summit after meeting with Oshibanjo, and Fayemi is saying no cause for alarm over consensus candidate. Uncertainty trailing conduct of the special convention of the ruling All Progressive Congress to nominate its presidential candidate for the 2023 general election is giving party members anxious moments as the Independent National Electoral Commission deadline draws nearer. The Guardian gathered yesterday that there are strong indications that the party may further alter the convention date, which is originally scheduled for May 29th to 30th. This came to the force as the Senator Abdullahi Adamu-led National Working Committee is yet to constitute Convention Planning Committee as at now. It was the case in both 2014 and 2018, where Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State headed both convention that produced President Buhari as the party candidate. Also, about 72 hours to the exercise, the ruling party is yet to screen its presidential aspirants who have purchased and returned their expression of interest and nomination form. The development may not be unconnected with the party's inability to settle for either the direct, indirect, or consensus modus of selecting its standard bearer. As a Thursday, President Muhammadu Buhari, members of the Governor Atiku Bagudu-led Progressive Governors Forum and the National Working Committee have yet to come up with a definite position on how to resolve the issues relating to the selection of a presidential candidate. Besides this decision by the party to reschedule the conduct of its governorship, House of Assembly, Senate, and House of Representative primaries between Thursday and Saturday, after several postponements, may have been responsible for the delay. President Buhari had earlier in the week met behind closed doors with APC governors, National Assembly leadership, and the party National Working Committee to arrive at a decision concerning the primaries. While details of the meeting remained sketchy, it was hinted that the meeting will take place on 29th and 30th, and this story can be continued on page 7 of the Guardian newspaper. While on manifesto review, Yaya Bello leads 10 other top presidential aspirants in Channel's TV rating. Abuja stands still for APC and PDP convention, and this is a big story which can be found in page 4, 5, and 6 of the Guardian newspaper. APC disqualifies Benue Abia Cross River Reps aspirant as Buhari commits to fair and peaceful polls. FAAC April revenue down by 68.969 billion naira as federal government and others share. Lagos, Ogun account for 3.2 trillion naira of Nigeria's 3.7 trillion naira production output in H2 2021. And we will continue working for your betterment, Buhari promises children. The last story on the Guardian newspaper, Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Zulum, others pick APC second term ticket, and details can be found in page 7, and that's all on the Guardian newspaper. But Sele, before we move to other papers, we'll be right back after this timeout. Do stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned and welcome back. Still on newspaper review on Equa Television. I'm Owolabi Tosin and I'm doing this with Sele Elisha. Sele, let's move to the next paper.
Yes, and on National Star, Shagari blasts Tambuwal and dumps PDP. Detail of that can be found on page 25 of the National Star newspaper. And we have 17-year-old Ibadan teenager becomes the youngest chartered accountant. This is what we're talking about, to record the Children's Day. I mean, when you're having a child becoming the youngest, then you know that something is up, and this is a good news. These are things that we're looking forward to seeing in more of our paper. This is things that we want to see and record in Nigeria, and seeing that there's progress, there's good. But just like we said, it will start by making sure that educational sector is really visited and something is done about that. Other stories still on National Star. Jonathan described APC and PDP primaries as a mess. And the big story, which is on most of our papers, APC governor primaries, Omo-Agege, Buni, Sanwo-Olu, Inija, and others pick tickets. Boycott parallel primaries, mayor polls in Eboyi and Ogun, and others. Detailed on page 24. Ohanize blames Soludo for Anambra's killings. And if you want to know why they blame him, you can actually check that on page 4. Atiku, Saraki, Wike, Iyam, and 10 others battle for 811 PDP delegates votes. You can read more of that on page 25, and that's all on the National Star newspaper.
Thank you, Sally. On the Punch newspaper, Cbn Defends Naira with $3.4 billion in 2 months. Tinubu, Kwankwaso, Ekweremadu may lead regional parties. And an editorial says citizens Harira, her 4 children should not die in vain. The criminals hiding under the cover of a self-determination agitation to terrorize the southeast region horrified the country on Sunday with the gruesome murder of a pregnant woman, Harira Jibril, 32 years, and 4 children in Orumba South local government area of Anambra State. The outrage reverberated across the country and beyond for its maniacal savory. Not only was Harira 9 months pregnant, her innocent children traveling with her were also mercilessly killed. And continuation of the story can be found in page 30, and we keep on saying justice for Harira and also her children who were killed. Manufactured goods trade deficit hit by 2.6 trillion naira despite forex shortage, and 63 million technology devices sold annually in Nigeria. This is coming from NCC report. While on governorship primaries, fresh crisis hits APC. Factions boycott polls, threatens suit. Lagos aspirant protest exclusion. Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun, Omoagege, Matawale, others win. Abe, Ogun, Sokoto aspirant allege fraud, threatens suit. Keyamo, Ojubo, and others absent. PDP gets parallel governor candidate in Ogun, Kano, and Akwa Ibom. Now ensure Nigeria export fuel in 2 years. This is coming from Tunde Bakari. Buhari attends AU summit in Malabo, and I can't share money like other aspirants. This is coming from Dave Umahi. JAMB withholds 69 UTME results, screens 27,105 again. Abba carries 6 fresh bill, claims threat to life. And on APC primary, court decides Jonathan's fate today. Ex-president gets waiver. While on Osinachi's death, federal government slams homicide charges against husband. Police arrest 43,329 kidnap and robbery suspects in 1 year. And that's all on the Punch newspaper. Do well to call us. Our phone lines are displayed on your screen. Sele, you can move on to the next paper.
And on Vanguard newspaper, how Chinese firm shattered my dream, 22-year-old amputee. Detail of that can be found on page 13. And APC Guba primaries, governors men pick tickets. Delta PDP primaries, Edive, manager Oturo, and others react to Oboriwore's victory. Detail of that can be found on page 14. And on insecurity, take over forest, swap use by gunmen, Sultan tax the federal government and the states. Still on APC primaries, I'm ready to serve, not make money. This is coming from Tinubu. And company income tax raises by 53% to 532.4 billion naira in the first quarter of 2022. The screaming story, which is on 2023, how PDP governors frustrated Obi out of party. Governors tighten grip on delegates ahead APC and PDP presidential primaries. APC mulls adoption of security report on aspirants might shelf screening and disqualify 4 out of the 1,197 House of Reps aspirants. APC decide on zoning after screening presidential aspirants. This is coming from the chairman, Adomu. Over half of dead now inmates in sub-Saharan Africa are in Nigeria. This is a report, and you can read more of that report on page 8. And drug trafficking charge, my life's in danger in prison, Abba Kyari tells the court. And that's all on the Vanguard newspaper.
On Daily Independent, bandits kill 3 Niger PDP delegates at Katgigi emerges party's flag bearer. Federal government mounts surveillance to prevent outbreak of monkeypox, and this is really good coming from the federal government and even the Ministry of Health, because I remember when we spoke about this monkeypox and what the federal government need to do so that we can curb this pox from spreading, and now we can see that the federal government have mounted surveillance to prevent the outbreak of this monkeypox. Ongoing party primaries a mess, Goodluck Jonathan says. And he says they can't be used to elect president, governors, senators, and others. Abakari alleges threat to life, seeks bail. And Section 84, subsection 12, Supreme Court reserves judgment on Buhari's AGF suit. FCT Minister orders reopening of Day building material market, and federal government, state, local government share 656.602 billion naira for April 2022. An APC governorship primary skewed, a charade, aspirant says, as Abiodun Nwifuru, Cole, Liyaya, Omoagege, Zulum, Sanwo-Olu, Buni, others pick tickets. Abacha clinches Kano PDP gubernatorial ticket. Details can be found in page 7, and that's all on the Daily Independent.
And on Daily Sun newspaper, sit at home. Hoodlums burn motorcycle and tricycle in his car. Detail of that can be found on page 4. And on the strike, ASU disowned the 34 billion naira federal government largest, says no retreat. And this you can find on page 26. Well, we are still hoping that the federal government will meet the demands of ASU. The screaming story, which is on APC presidential primary, Lawan Ozibanjo, Tinubu, Una, Amechi, Umahi look strong with the rider. Buhari, party elders work towards consensus. Jonathan condemns the party primaries, knocks lawmakers. Detail can be found on page 6 and 27. And on Obey, political tsunami hit Anambra PDP. 9 National Assembly, State and Assembly aspirants withdraw from primary. Others quit the party. You can read more of that on page 8. And on Children's Day, Ojikadu advocates several punishments for children's rights violators. Detail of that can be found on page 3, and I really support that. And on PDP presidential primary, police deploy massively to prevent crisis. Detailed on page 6. And we have on APC Guba, Sanwo-Olu, Yahaya, Biodun, Zulum, Sude, Buni get second term tickets. And FAAC shield 88.9 billion naira as federal government and others share 656.602 billion naira. Last story here, Buhari travels out to attend the AU extraordinary meeting in Malabo. Detailed on page 26, and that's all on the Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, the Sultan is saying fish out, prosecute unknown gunmen. MAN laments effect of interest rate hike. Consumers may pay more. And Stella Odua is saying, I didn't abandon youth service. Primaries monetized a mess, says Jonathan. And Buhari in Malabo for AU summit. Abakari alleges threats to life in prison. House Sanwo-Olu, Abiodun Abdulrazak won ticket. And clean sweep for governors, APC holds. INEC only results of monitored polls acceptable, and we know the winners for the APC governorship position. For Lagos, we have Babajide Sanwo-Olu, while for Ogun State, we have Dapo Abiodun, and Kwara Abdurrahman Abdulrazak, and Borno Babagana Sulum, Yobe May Malabuni, and Nasrawa Abdullahi Sule. For Gombe, we have Inuwa Yahya, and Delta Ovie Omo Agege. For Abia, we have Ikechi Emenike, and for Rivers, Tonye Cole. For Kebbi, we have Nasser Gwandu, and Enugu, we have Uchechukwu Naji. For Ebonyi, we have Francis Nwifuru. And inside the Nation newspaper, we have this riders which says, Oyo shift polls, retired teacher is Kebbi candidate, and Abiodun's opponent stays away. XRM AFC chair holds parallel congress in Ebonyi, an aspirant abducted in Plateau. Niger speaker fails in return bid, while APC chair Abdullahi ex-wife loses. Mode of primary stalls process in Taraba. 3 delegates killed in Niger, and more can be found inside the paper in page 4. Shagari quits PDP after loss in Sokoto, while Obaseki camp loses to Obrihi's group. Details can be found in page 5, and that's all on the Nation newspaper.
Let's take a look at the world of business from Business Day newspaper. BUA and others push manufacturing output to 7 trillion naira with the rider new jobs more than losses in 2021. This is coming from the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. Intrigues as Atiku battles 13 orders for PDP presidential tickets. And Sanwo-Olu gets ticket to contest for the second term. FBN Holdings profit jump to 166.7 billion naira. Students and parents pay for vacant hostels as ASU strike lingers. And we have petrol subsidy doubles near 600 billion naira in 1 month. HR managers contend with Gen Z workers, and the big story: federal government gas producers in talk over the new LNG trains. And that's all on the Business Day newspaper.
And on National Economy newspaper, the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, which is MAN, increases in MPR, widens single-digit interest rate journey. Optimism for higher returns in stock as investors earn 1.1 trillion naira. Manufacturers, telecoms lead dividend-paying sectors. FAAC records 68.969 billion naira drop in revenue, shares 656.602 billion naira for April. Details can be found in page 5. And FBNH reports net profit growth of 99.9% to 151 billion naira. Dangote is still Africa's most admired brand for 5 consecutive years. And that's all on National Economy.
And on the Business Standard, all banks have to sell dollars at the same rate. And we have the CG Port Asian least efficient in container handling from the World Bank. From runners to digital speed posts, how our postal system evolved. You can check that inside the Business Standard newspaper. And we have the 39th issue of our weekly Bad magazine hits the stand tomorrow, and we have an imperative for redistributive fiscal policy for Bangladesh. We have quite a number of stories on the Business Standard. You can do well to get the paper and read detail of any story that is of interest here.
And the last paper is the Mirror Sport newspaper. London is set for a double invasion from Huddersfield. Reds revival will be very slow going, and 3 Lions face trial by Google Box. We have a match here: Liverpool versus Real Madrid, and main talks German giants to make their move for Cup star after tomorrow's final Paris showpiece, where he promised to reveal a special plan to Bayern. And inside we have more stories inside the paper. Do well to visit the Mirror Sport to be updated on the sporting world. Thank you, Sele, for doing this with me. And thank you to all our viewers for watching. Thanks for your contribution. Let's make a date on Monday where we bring to you fresh episode on From the Dailies. Thank you and have a blessed weekend.